Okay, next we have a very special entertainer for you this evening. This performer grew up surrounded by art and the cosmopolitan culture of Mexico City. He studied in the US and later formed the advertising library where he enjoyed a 20-year career. A simple trip to a local home improvement store changed his life forever. A bag of sand had split on the floor and shoppers scuffled through it, leaving lines and patterns. Yeah, he made it home with the items on his honey-do list, but he also had a bag of sand, a light fixture, a piece of glass, and 4 table legs. Sand Story was born. Over the past years, he has performed for youth conventions, churches, and 30 of the Fortune 500 companies. He has been in the homes of 23 million television viewers as a finalist on America's Got Talent. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Sand Story artist Joe Castillo.
Thank you. I am an artist, but I tell people it's not my fault. Those of you that are particularly astute probably already figured that out because I'm wearing this cool little French beret, but actually, my father was an artist, my mother was an artist, my Aunt Carolyn was an artist. I even had an uncle named Artie, so go figure. My mom swears that my first solid food was Crayola crayons. But the interesting thing was that by the time I got to art school, I really didn't want to do fine art. I really felt like all of the great artwork had already been done, and I didn't want to compete with guys like Michelangelo and Da Vinci and Donatello and Raphael. I know you're impressed with my knowledge of Renaissance painters, unless you realize that the only reason I remember those names is because they're the names of the 4 Ninja Turtles. But I'd heard all the stories about, the guy that labors away painting, and he lives in a garret, and he's poor, and he goes hungry, and nobody appreciates him. And eventually he cuts his ear off and he dies. And then everybody loves his work. And I just thought, I didn't want to do that. There were the two factions in art school. There were the fine artists, and they were the ones that said, I want people to pay me for what springs from my soul. And then there were the commercial artists, and they were the ones that said, I want to pay the rent. And so I went into commercial art. I wound up doing that for almost 20 years. Eventually, I broke away from that, and I started doing sand stories. Some of my clips wound up on YouTube, and the phone started ringing, and it's been crazy busy ever since. But about 3 years ago, one of the phone calls came from America's Got Talent, and they wanted me to try out. Now, I had watched the show occasionally, and some of you may know what I'm talking about when they say America's Got Talent, and you think, oh, no, it doesn't. Well, I turned them down. And so the following year they called me again, and I still turned them down. And then last year they called, and my wife turned to me and she said, Joe, you know, maybe God is trying to open a door that he wants you to go through. So when your wife says something like that, you say, okay. So I went down to where your headquarters are in Austin, Texas, and tried out for America's Got Talent. But there was only one piece that I developed at that point that I could condense to 90 seconds, which is all they give you, is just 90 seconds. And that was a patriotic piece called God Bless the USA. And so I thought, well, okay, I'm going to do that, and I know what's going to happen. Howie Mandel is Canadian. He doesn't want to bless the USA. Sharon Osbourne, she's British. She doesn't want to bless the USA. And Howard Stern, well, I don't know where he is, but he's so far out in the field that he doesn't care if God blesses the USA. So all three of them are going to X me. I'll go home and I'll say, see, God closed the door. That's not what happened. As a matter of fact, all three judges liked it. Howard Stern stood up, applauded, and said, Joe, that gave me goosebumps. And so let me do not the 90-second version, the extended version of the piece that I did for the tryouts that got me into all this trouble. God Bless the USA.
If tomorrow all the things were gone worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom, and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say that I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
Thank you. One of the things that I discovered in telling the stories is that I discovered that I could tell any kind of story that there was. And it wasn't long before I figured out that the stories didn't require any translation. And so I've gotten a chance to travel to about 20 foreign countries and perform in about 9 different ethnic cultures. The stories translate perfectly to other languages and other cultures. I've gotten a chance to perform for some people and some places that I never expected that I would be able to be. I've always been kind of a homebody most of my life. I stayed at home. One of my favorite activities was having tea time at 10. My wife and I would enjoy sitting by the fire and at 10 o'clock having tea. Well, now we do tea time at 10, but it winds up being in hotels scattered around the globe. And we've gotten a chance to perform for the King of Saudi Arabia and President Jimmy Carter, for President Juan Manuel Santos of Colombia, and just some fabulous people like you around the world. And one of the stories that I put together was just a fun piece. It was a piece that I wound up titling Earth, Wind, Water, and Fire.